Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Like that, Aileen? Good? You good? I was gonna say, like, you can bring them home. You just have to buy their startup. That's all. So, is our mic up? Everything good?
No?
Oh, there you go.
How about now?
Now it is. Okay, great.
Sorry.
All right, so we always like to start off our fireside chat on a personal note. So if you can sort of talk about your personal story. Where were you born? Where were you raised? And then maybe talk about when you first got that entrepreneur pitch.
So I was born in Staten Island, New York. You told me I'm the second generation. My parents were born in China, and they emigrated here in high school and college. So I'm the first generation born here in the States. And then our family moved to New Jersey, so I grew up in New Jersey. Aileen is kind of a tough name, to be honest, but apparently I was very closely Angie. Being Angie Lee from Staten Island, New York is not like, it's not the best, so I should be happy with Aileen.
It's better than Aileen, I guess.
Yeah, well, I get called Aileen a lot, actually.
So like, let's talk about the whole, the Cowboy Ventures, the story. Like, tell us about, why did you start that, coming from Kleiner Perkins. I mean, did you feel like there was like an unserved market out there? Tell us the whole story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was really fortunate. I've been interested in entrepreneurship and startups and technology for a long time. I used to be one of those geeks who would read Inc. magazine when I was in high school, and I was always really interested in the kind of idea generation, company formation. And I did little startups with some friends when I was in junior high and high school, not tech ones, but we had a business making tie-dye t-shirts, and we used to sell them in school. Our company was called Buy or Die. And then we used to also have this takeout egg roll stand that we would make at bring it to street fairs and stuff, and it was called Walk Out. And so we did lots of weird little businesses to make money. And I was an analyst at Morgan Stanley in New York after college, and I had always heard about venture capital, and I loved the idea of working with startups and helping them get off the ground and giving them money and business advice and stuff. But to be honest, I thought I would never fit in. Yeah. Because when I was at Morgan Stanley, the two types of people who tended to be in venture capital that I saw, and then my classmates who were going into venture capital, were having these very gunner type guys who kind of wear bow ties to school and stuff, or kind of country clubby guys who had fathers who were in venture capital, or their father's friends were in venture capital, and they probably grew up in Connecticut and went to private school, and I just figured I would never fit in. Yeah. And then I got very lucky kind of catching a break running Kleiner Perkins in 1999, which was a long time ago. I didn't plan on staying. I thought it would be a good way to learn about startups and then make a better decision about what startup to join. And I wound up spending 13 years at Kleiner Perkins, which was a fantastic experience. I got to work with some of the best entrepreneurs and some of the best partners on the planet. But 13 years is a long time to be any place. And venture capital is changing quite a bit. Startups are changing quite a bit. As you guys probably know, with AWS and open source and all these other things, you don't need nearly as much money as you used to start a company or just a product. And so I felt like there was, and I had some other friends who had been doing this, like Michael Deering and Steve Anderson and Josh Kaufman, I think are just top-notch at professional seed investing. And they were both generating really great returns and having a ton of fun, and I think adding a lot of value to startups, but it just felt like there weren't enough of them. Basically for your first $1 million or $2 million, there was a real opportunity to provide more experienced investing help and more business building experience, and also to kind of have a smaller shop that was more personal, and hopefully also deliver better returns. As you may know, venture returns in the past decade have not been so great. Part of it is, I think, because the funds have gotten quite large, and it's just hard to deliver fantastic returns when you have a $600 million fund. And so I saw the opportunity both to kind of spend the next half of my career doing something that's more personal and almost more boutique, very small and lean, no big partner meetings, no overhead or politics, and just working at the earliest stages with when companies are doing their first $1 million or $2 million in raise and shipping product and building the initial team.
Okay, cool. So, I know that you guys are very big on this Life 2.0. So, Okay, so like you're very big on this whole Life 2.0, and your fund is sort of predicated on this thesis. So why don't you explain to us what is Life 2.0?
So Life 2.0 is kind of it's a description of what we do, but it's a very broad label, right? And the whole idea is that I think that in modern society, life is being changed like really in interesting ways through software products and new technologies, whether it's just probably 5 or 6 years ago when we woke up in the morning, we would probably turn on our TV or go outside and get the newspaper to get our news, right? I mean, basically now you kind of reach over and you get your phone or your iPad, and how you get your news is delivered through completely new channels. And when you go to work, I used to be a very copious note taker. I had tons of notebooks with like lots of little flags and foldovers, and I had like a highlighter pen with me everywhere. Like now I use Evernote, right? And I can see it on my iPad or my Mac at home, or my MacBook. And so pretty much whether it's the business processes that we touch in our work or through our personal lives, like how you get to work. It used to be that you would take a car or a bus. Now you can take a Lyft, you can take an Uber, you can ride share, or even how you open your door. We're an investor in a company called August Smart Lock, right? Which is sort of like Nest, but for the locks in your house. Just a lot of things that are in your life are being, I think, enhanced, made more transparent, more efficient, or more fun through new technologies. And those are all the kinds of things we're interested in.
So I want to touch more about that Life 2.0.
Yeah.
Because I think Life 2.0 in the first world countries is much different than Life 2.0 in, say, third world countries.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, when I think about Life 2.0, it's like first world problems. So like case in point, at home, like my wife's closet is seriously 3 times bigger than mine. I mean, it's like bursting at the seams, right?
Right.
And I look at my closet, and every morning she wakes up and she says, I got nothing to wear, right? And then I look at my closet, I got plenty to wear. I got 3 shirts to choose from. So the thing is, I guess the question would be, in that case, that would have been perfect for Runway.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually how Runway got started.
Okay. So would you ever invest in, what I call Life 0.002, right? Like, where's the nearest drinking well, and, where can I find shelter if there's a civil unrest happening? I mean, would you ever invest, or maybe a solar panel to charge my iPhone? That's all third world problems, right?
I have invested in, I invested when I was at Kleiner in a company called Mia Soleil, which had awesome technology for very thin film, high efficiency solar panels.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I may have too much scar tissue from, number one thing that investors are generally looking for is very large markets, right? And so you have to, and then also how easy are they to get to, right? So a lot of these third world markets, they're not as easy to address as first world markets, and they're often not as big as well. And then as Kleiner is kind of well known, it's been well documented that we went very long on greentech. And I think for some of these markets, there's also a lot of regulatory risk. There's a lot of economic risk where, the wind can blow in your direction or not. And so I definitely have learned a couple of lessons about maybe trying to avoid markets where you can be in business or out of business by things that are outside of your control, just because the wind blows in the wrong direction.
Sure, okay. So the next topic I wanted to talk about was women entrepreneurism. So, obviously I'm the most qualified to ask about this. Derek, you're out there. So I guess the question here would be, you've known to say that women is probably one of the biggest underserved markets, but yet they're the best users for most products out there. So, your thesis, you say that women will become, and maybe it's the case now, but the power users of mobile internet. So I'll just rattle off some, like 55% of mobile social networking are women, 30% of women spend more time on social networking sites than men. So I guess the question would be, and this is sort of another segue to this whole unicorn thing, but do you eventually see a balance of female and male founders of these billion-dollar valuation startups?
Oh God, I hope so. I would be happy if we could just get to 10% in the near term. It's really shocking. I don't know about you guys, but I was brought up in a time when I was told it's not fair that girls and boys have the same capabilities, and it's not fair that boys have more power and basically control more of the economy than girls. It's not right? And I have to admit, I'm very frustrated that more hasn't changed. I just think that in politics and in healthcare, I think women have actually made more progress in tech and entrepreneurship. We have a lot of opportunity, and so and there's a pipeline problem, certainly, right? Where there's, I think, technology and design are kind of the core skill sets that you need to be a great founder. And so we have to look at the pool of women who are basically coming out of school with those degrees, and then also get them to be in great high growth startups, because I think high growth experience is one of the gateway experiences to founding a unicorn company. And it's also hard socially, I think, for women to, in many cases, when it's a 95% male environment, to kind of be in the inner circle of like some of the key people that are going to start companies. But I really hope if you're starting a company, you're thinking about it, you're thinking about co-founders, that you will do a very hard look at how you bring more diversity into your founding team. I just think that that's, it's both the right thing to do, and I also think a lot of data and studies show that you get better results when you have more diverse teams and you have different points of view around the table. So I think, obviously the companies on the unicorn list have been super successful, and we all wish to be associated with those kinds of companies, but if they had more diversity on the teams, I think they'd be even better and stronger than they are today.
We'll definitely talk about the unicorn,
okay.
We'll get there. But I mean, so there's probably 200 people in this room. You probably get 100,000 pitches.
Not 100,000.
Not 100,000, okay. I thought more, yeah. But I'm sure some of these pitches have resonated with you, and some of them have rubbed you the wrong way. But can you talk about some of the keystones that we have to think about? Not just only women, but just if we could get your attention, what are some of the keystones to keep in mind?
I think, the founding team, the background of the founding team is very helpful, and actually introducing yourself up front and explaining who you are, what you've done before, why you started the company, why you're so passionate about it. Like, this is a very personal business. People want to understand, like, are you a missionary, are you a mercenary, why are you doing this? Because it's a very long road. It's not going to be over unless the company dies in 2 years. So we're really trying to get to know you, and whether you're the kind of founder who is going to be able to navigate the company for 8 to 10 years, understanding the size of the markets, explaining what your product is, and then also explaining what's going to be hard about it and what you've done to actually try and figure out whether the hard stuff is doable. It's especially in today's world where you don't need as much money to buy some Facebook ads or to run a survey or to ship a very kind of very lightweight MVP. It's like that's a big chasm between the people who walk in the door and who actually built something and had 500 people use it versus a person who's like, I need money to help me hire some engineers so I can build this product that I've mocked up in PowerPoint, and then we'll see if it works. So, and I also think the other thing is storytelling is a very big part of this. Like, you don't want to storytell too much, because then the investors are like, wait, like, is this person just like a super salesperson, and like, I need to feel the engine to understand what's real. But everybody loves a good story, right? And you can just become much more engaged and emotionally attached to someone or a company that has a story versus something that feels very clinical and is a little bit all over the place.
Do you think that that's probably one of the more important skills to have, is the storytelling ability?
I think it's really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, especially if you're not a PhD who's and you're not bringing a lot of data to the table. I think storytelling is really helpful.
I mean, that's interesting because Warren Buffett is the master of storytelling, right? He's a billionaire, and he's the richest guy in the world, and he's the best storyteller. So, what are some?
If you look at a lot of CEOs, Jeff Bezos, I think, is a great storyteller. I think there's a lot of CEOs who are great.
But what are some of the ways where I can be a good storyteller? Does it mean that I have to sort of make my own dog food? The reason why I started this startup?
Yeah.
And or personal pitch that I had, would that be a good way?
I mean, also, obviously, as the founder and CEO, one of your biggest jobs is recruiting, right? It's recruiting talent to your team. Are you in an incredibly tight talent market in Silicon Valley in particular? Like, everybody wants a full stack engineer, a Ruby engineer, an iOS engineer, an Android engineer. How are you going to win that talent over the 50,000 other startups that are looking for those people? A lot of it is going to be how compelling you are as a leader in terms of selling the vision and the opportunity, and so that's why that capability is really important.
So I guess the other question too would be, is there such thing as selling too good of a story?
Right,
Yeah.
I mean,
you see some of these like demo days, right? It's
Yeah.
perfect pitch,
Yeah.
nailed the story, but maybe there could be something where they don't have as much experience, and then the other
Yeah.
vice versa, where they have, their perfect executor, seasoned CEO, but doesn't have the magic behind it. So it's sort of like the balance between those scenarios.
Yeah, like
you
there's
just have to invest.
if you're too good of a storyteller and there's not enough meat there, then I call it's like a jazz hands pitch. So there's just a lot of jazz hands going on, but like you don't really know like what's real. Look here, no, look here. It has to be a combination of both. I think creativity and data. It's an increasingly data-driven world, so kind of having some real data to put against the thesis or the chasm you're trying to cross is helpful.
Well, speaking of which of data, because I would be remiss of my duties if I don't ask you this. So let's talk about the unicorn.
Okay.
I'm sure that's why everybody's here to hear you talk about this. But you published an article in November, and so let me just read here. At the bottom of the article, you say, "This is what we found in 90% of unicorn founders." So anybody who don't know what a unicorn is a $1 billion valuation company. It has a valuation of $1 billion. And it has said, these are the common threads of the unicorn. So enterprise founder, CEO had technical degrees. Company had 2 or more co-founders who worked together.
Yeah.
That was interesting. Because, you see a lot of lean startup movements. It's sort of like the weekend, sort of weekend where it's like, hey, let's get a bunch of strangers together and build a $1 billion corporation. But in your case, in your study, you're saying that that's not true. And then also went to school together. Companies had founded prior tech startup or had prior tech startup experience. And the founders, I thought was interesting, were in their 30s or older.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I wanted to talk about was you had said 0.07% of the 60,000 internet companies ended up being a unicorn, which I thought was sort of depressing when I read this. Right?
No, it's indeed depressing. I'm sorry.
So the question I wanted to ask is this. After your article, Fred Wilson had created this hack pad, and everybody in the whole startup world started, they put their versions of unicorns. So, and that list was 3 times bigger.
Yeah.
So does that skew some of the data that you had found? Have you?
So I have looked at the hack pad. I think it's super cool, actually. We're working on a follow-up to the unicorn thing, which is, I haven't come up with the right name. If you guys can help me out, like we're calling it, they're not baby corns, they're not mini corns, but they're unicorns. I don't know what they are.
Mini
But
corns?
it's $250 million to $1 billion companies, and there are obviously a lot more of those. So the hack pad does have a lot of those unicorns on them, but are not actually quite unicorns. It also has quite a few international companies. And our list is just basically just US-based software companies. So I don't think if you peeled out the international and like the unicorns, it probably actually wouldn't be that different. We definitely missed some. So we're also working on an update to the unicorn analysis because there are a bunch that we missed. And then also a bunch that have happened actually just in the past 2 or 3 months. I mean, it's actually quite incredible what's going on with both, acquisitions like Nest and, the IPO market has really opened up quite a bit. So there are a bunch more $1 billion companies than there were in October, November. And there's some really interesting stories. Like one company I'm kind of a little obsessed with is this company called Viva. Has anyone heard of Viva? Yeah, that's why I didn't put it on the list. So it's this company that basically is Salesforce for the pharmaceutical industry. And they basically are built on Salesforce. So they actually didn't even build, they didn't start from scratch. They leveraged the Salesforce platform to actually build something that's tailored for the pharmaceutical industry. They raised in their whole lifetime, they have a market cap, last I checked, of around $4.5 billion. So it's a pretty big company that I had never heard of. And they had raised $15 million in their entire life, which compared to all the other unicorns is like nothing. And I think it's just a fascinating example of how little, when you are really capital efficient, you can build a big company on, and also just how big some of these markets are that still don't have really good software. And that's why I think the company is so valuable, because the pharma industry is so big and they don't have good software. And that's another example of how much opportunity I think there is out there to basically bring new software to industries that are still living with 1.0 everything.
The other thing too, I noticed that you had said that there was no unicorn female founding CEOs. It must have been depressing for you.
It makes me sad. Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know if you saw last week, One Kings Lane, which is one of my portfolio companies from KP, they're almost basically unicorn. They're very close, and the two founders there are women. So I have hope that maybe they'll be the first female.
Well, I was going to say, because it's going to be a matter of time before you're going to have a female founder.
Well, there were two companies, Guilds and Fab, that have female co-founders, but they're not the CEOs.
Right. Okay. So my question again would be, it's going to be a matter of time before we have, besides Guild and Fab.
And Victoria Ransom, I think, is speaking soon. I feel like she had a fantastic outcome with Wildfire, and maybe her next one she'll be the CEO.
So I guess the next, maybe the third, so it'd be like the female founder unicorn. What do you think that's going to happen? And which space do you think it's going to happen?
It can really happen in any space, I would say. I mean, we kind of look at the world simplistically, and there's kind of heavy iron enterprise. There's enterprise SaaS. There's commerce, and then kind of audience-based, community-based companies. And I feel like for any of them, it could happen. Hopefully, it's just a matter of time.
So let's talk about your future of Cowboy Ventures. Say in a year or two, how many startups do you think that you see yourself investing in?
So we
Just your class.
invest at a pace of about one investment a month.
Okay.
So this year we'll probably invest in maybe 12 companies, something like that. We're pretty flexible where we can write a check from anywhere from like $100,000 to $1 million or so.
Sure.
Our sweet spot is usually like 500 to 800K. Yeah.
So if you're going to write a $100,000 check today,
Hopefully, if
what would
that, it should be $800,000.
$800,000? What would that sort of look like? What would it be?
Oh, it's a really good question. I do have like a little bit of a shopping list.
Sure.
And I've been meaning to kind of write a blog post just kind of listing kinds of stuff that we're looking for. I don't know how big of an opportunity is, but I think it's crazy that most of us are software people and we carry business cards around. Like somebody's going to figure out how to do digital business cards because we all have mobile devices. It just seems crazy to give each other a piece of paper. I feel like that's an opportunity. I would love for there to be an internet shopping time machine where basically anything that's ever been bought with a digital receipt or through e-commerce is tracked in some way, so it actually can create visibility into, like, let's say if, like, your speakers that you love, you lose them or they get a hole or they get worn down. That model is not made anymore, but they probably made 1,000 pairs of that, and they're out there in the world, and you don't have the ability to actually go find them and make someone an offer to bid on something because there's just no digital track record of that stuff. And I feel like that is going to happen.
That's interesting because didn't NASA do that with their parts? Because there was some machine in there that was so old they went to eBay to buy the parts that were like made in 1980.
I mean, eBay is really good for certain things,
Sure.
but obviously it's not comprehensive
Yeah.
for a lot of things, and I feel like we should be able to do that. And then there's also just a lot of kind of the Viva model. We're really interested in SaaS for vertical or oriented industries because I think just most industries still are running with very inefficient manual rote processes that can be automated. So those are some examples. But I also think a lot of the best ventures are not ones that investors are looking to invest in, right? Like Twitter, I think, is a great example. It's not like anyone was saying, like, oh, I'm looking for a 140-character messaging system, right? It's what entrepreneurs come up with, and investors back them.
So we're running out of time, but I have a few more questions. And I always try to wrap it up with your personal, so you're a child of an immigrant as me.
Yeah.
And so what was the most important advice that your parents gave you while growing up and that you apply now to become a person you are today?
That's a really good question. My joke answer is probably basically when I wasn't doing well in school, my mom was like, that's fine, you can always work at Safeway. That was pretty helpful.
I mean, you did go to Harvard and MIT, so.
Exactly. Basically my mom's like, that's fine, you can work at a grocery store, you can become a nail technician.
Right. My mom always says, well, you could be a garbage collector.
Totally.
Right? But then they're the ones that are making a lot of money.
My parents
right?
have this bookshelf. My sister always always joke about this. That she did this bookshelf in their kind of home office library that was basically all reverse psychology books. I think that's kind of the product.
So I heard that you were into yoga and kickboxing. And when I asked, like, we had a pre-interview, she looked.
Like, how do you find this?
Yeah, well, I googled it. I just put your name in there. It was like the 5th link. Yeah. So maybe the 3rd
You
link.
have to go go for reputation.com premium.
So what has both of these sports taught you while running Cowboy Ventures? Because yoga's here and kickboxing is here,
I
right?
actually don't do kickboxing as much anymore, but I still do. I've been still doing yoga and actually lately I'm doing hot Pilates. It's I have 3 kids, and I have this other baby which is Cowboy Ventures, and I still have some KP stuff. My husband is actually the co-founder of a technology startup, and he's the CTO, so we have like a crazy household. So I generally, I like multitasking, I like being busy, as I think most entrepreneurs do. I mean, it's like work is a really, really important part of your life. So I do try and at least a couple times a week. I get up at 5:30, and I usually work out from like 5:45 to 6:45. That's my time to actually kind of think about my day, get some exercise in, and then I can wake everyone up and breakfast for the chaos.
I was gonna say, because yoga is like, it teaches you how to be calm and composed, and then kickboxing like teaches you to kick someone's ass and then you get a reality check.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So do you do that with a bunch of entrepreneurs?
No.
Okay.
But actually, one of my things for 2014 is trying to practice more mindfulness.
Okay.
I've been learning from a lot of other entrepreneurial friends who have actually been telling me about the benefits of meditation. And so that's one of my aspirations for the year, is actually to try and learn how to meditate, because I've heard that it's a great way to actually learn how to center yourself and be healthy.
Sure. And then one last question, and I always ask this, I always wrap it up, but who's your favorite superhero or historic figure in life?
Superhero, I don't think I have a favorite, but historic figure, I would say for sure Nelson Mandela.
Why?
It's just an amazing man who I think is a fantastic symbol of both leadership and also forgiveness, right? Like, he just had such an amazing personal power, and to go through everything that he went through, and then basically kind of lead his country through change. I think we're just really, really lucky to have had him here.
Great. You know, Aileen, I've interviewed some of the biggest names in the East Coast, but I am truly honored to share the stage with you.
Thank you.
Seriously, so.
I'm honored to be here with you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, Aileen Lee.